knows best.
Hi friends, welcome back to Brenna Knows Best. I'm your host, Brenna Berg. Hi, how are you guys? I love sitting down and catching up with you. Something I never talk about on any sort of social media or with you guys is sports. And right now, okay, the Mavericks just won last night and they're going to the finals, and the Stars and the Oilers are playing and they're also playing for the finals. So the Stars and the Mavericks could both be in the Stanley Cup. And then what's the NBA finals called? Just the finals, I think. We are big sports people. Well, now that I say that, I take it back. I grew up so sporty, and like my family watches the Wild, they watch the Vikings, they watch the Twins, like any Minnesota team, because that's the closest one to us. We are born and bred just like sports people, okay? And like I played sports growing up, and then obviously Carter, he played football, and then he played football into college. And so he's like a really big NCAA college football person, not so much the NFL. Well, his dad was actually a Vikings fan growing up, but then something happened controversial in the NFL, and then his dad never watched again, which is crazy. But he's kind of like that, like kind of strict, which is so crazy. But so Carter watched like NFL growing up, but not so much anymore. However, my Mavericks, okay, the Dallas Mavericks were playing the Timberwolves, which is the Minnesota team. So like my family has all been texting me and bothering me, but we actually just beat them 4-1 in the series. I never talked to you guys about this, but we watch the games every night because the Stars play on one night and then the Mavs play the next. And so every night there's a game, and I got my brother's HBO Max, okay? Why are sports not on regular channels? Which again, I hate TVs and like the whole, like there's no longer TV channels anymore, but I digress. We don't have a YouTube TV yet. It's like $70 a month, which is so much. We got it during college football season last year. Sorry if none of you really like sports. I promise this will be a quick little thing. But anyways, I saw HBO Max. So I was going to text my mom, but then I was like, oh, I bet Brandon, my brother, I was like, maybe he has it. Let me try him first because he's more techie. Like I know if I reach out to my mom, she's going to call me and she's not going to know the password and like it's going to be a whole thing. And he was like, yeah, I think I do. Oh my gosh, wait, this is so funny. I totally forgot. Why did I not put this in my notes? Okay, so I text my brother. You guys, I am so dead. And I've got to tell you this without giving you his password. But I'm like, hey, do you have HBO Max? And he's like, I think so. I think I got scammed into getting it with my AT&T program or whatever. And I was like, if not, no worries. And he's like, okay, you can try. And then he gave me his email. And then he said, the password would be like, and it's like TX6, IIX6, exclamation one, like a random password. You know, when they assign them, that you get like a random thing, but you never actually use that. You then go in and like change it. So I said, what? LMAO. And as I was typing that, he said, don't ask. Oh my gosh, wait, can I play this clip? Oh my gosh, would he kill me? This is so funny. Okay, I'm going to try. I saved it because I was dying.
My password used to always be just, but then there was one time in college where I was just trying, like I'd always just change a little bit, like a and an exclamation point or 44 or blah, 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 or 17, my favorite number, blah, 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 blah. And there was one time, you know, they make you change your password every like 6 months or whatever. And it like, I tried to change it and it was like, you can't have real words in your password. I'm like, well, that's fucking crazy. So it wouldn't let me do real words. So then I was like, oh, I'll just do it backwards, right? That's fine. That's normal. It literally told me you can't do real words backwards. And it's like, what the fuck do you want my password to be? And so like, that was basically the auto-generated one that it gave me, like for the reset. And I was just like, well, fuck it. I guess this is my new password.
So basically it's like this just random things and I'm dying. So then my brother said, try something else because that one didn't work. And he was like, okay, well do 2 exclamation points, da da da. And he was like, there's so many stupid password rules. My current one for my email is that, but twice. So it's like, since it doesn't let you use the previous emails. And honestly, that is so annoying. I remember in college, you had to change it like every 6 months. So I'm the same. Like my password is like the same. It has like the same theme. And then you start like changing the numbers are the letters. But then you have so many different ones. Like whenever I'm logging into something old, I'm like, okay, is it this? And then it's not. And then I'll remove the exclamation. It's so annoying. And I get it. It's for safety and security, but it is so crazy. He cracks me up. Maybe that wasn't that funny to you, but I was dying. He's like, okay, well, that's fucking crazy. I haven't seen my brother in like 2 years and I miss him so much. He just cracks me up. So we got his HBO Max. So we've been using it and all of the sports games are on there, which is incredible. And so last night we watched the Mavericks win, and then I think the final start next week. And yeah, I was thinking also about getting us tickets to the Stars game tonight. It's here, game 5. They're 2-2. But they're so expensive. And I'm like, I'm such a purchase for experience person. Like I typically have no problem spending money on like events, but we're also really trying to be good about like saving and just like getting our finances in order and bleh. I get it because I also want to be a savvy bitch, but I'm like, this would be so fun. But then I'm also like, the previous games that they've had, so like they've now won 2 different series. I was going to get tickets for those because they were cheaper, but I'm like, but if they keep advancing, I'd rather go to a more high stakes game. You know, so I like am battling this, I don't even know. It doesn't matter. Okay, so on Friday, we were leaving for California and I told you Maydog was staying with my best friend and her boyfriend. Oh my gosh. We drop her off. We say hello. Maydog's like jumping. My friend Natalie and Ryan, okay, her boyfriend, they've been together forever. Love them 2 pieces. So Maydog's like jumping into her arms. Then we fly to California. Our flight got delayed a little bit. So we got in around 7. Carter's dad picked us up and then the 5 of us went to dinner at an Italian restaurant, or actually it wasn't Italian. It was like Hungarian maybe? No. Greek, I think. They have like lamb and I forget. I said Hungarian because Carter is Hungarian, but I think it was Greek food. Anywho, so we ate and then the next day we wake up and like I told you, I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but we had an event going on. That's why we went there. And so there were a ton of like family friends coming over. So I finally met like all of their family friends and they grew up like religiously going to church, like it has to do with church. And all of these people are very much in it. Like all of these people they know through church, but they've known for like 30, 20 years at this point. And Carter's mom always is talking about like the Smiths, the Johnsons. Like I've heard a lot about them, but I haven't met them because they all live in different places. So it was so nice to finally meet everybody. And it was funny because on Sunday, this is like the bulk of what I wanted to talk about. We had to go to the church. And I want to give a disclaimer. If I say anything rude, it's not intended to be rude. I'm just telling my experience. And I grew up not going to church. We all know this. Okay. Carter grew up going to church like every day of the goddamn week. And anytime as a kid, I only went to churches. Like, let's say I was up in Candu visiting my grandma. She's very Catholic. My mother was raised very Catholic. Obviously, she's the youngest of 11 kids because they don't believe in birth control. Like, okay, they were very, very Catholic. And so when my mom left, she was like, screw that. Like she just like hated it. You know, I think religion is a beautiful, wonderful thing. I think all of it, like I think the morals, the life lessons, I think it's great. And Carter always says, he's like, you really should like just read the Bible. Like there are so many great stories and like, fundamentally, I think it's a wonderful thing. I just I've never read the Bible. I don't know any of the stories, any of the people. It's just so foreign to me. So I don't have any bad feelings against it. It's just like a thing that I am so unaware of and don't know anything about. And I think there is a part where like extremist religions or like, you know, the very far end is like a little bit scary to me that believe so stringently. That's not really even a word, as in, oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so sorry. Like, you know, just extremists in anything, like politics too. Like, I think that's when I get a little scared. And I think my mother grew up in like an extremist household. And so anyways, that is my background. But when I would go to churches as a child, which was not often, I'm talking like maybe once a year if I was up at the farm or if there was like, a Catholic wedding or whatever, I remember always going in and I was always with my mom because it was like her side of the family that was still Catholic. My dad was raised Lutheran and like not going, whatever. However, we'd walk in and like the kneeling at the pew and then the passing of like the communion. And I don't even know what it means, but I just remember always like seeing other people and I'm like, Mom, do I do that? And she's like, no. And then they'd pass the thing. She's like, don't take it. And I'm like, okay. Like it just always brought like these weird feelings in me. And then obviously sitting there listening to them talk about all of these things I have no idea about. I just like was always, I don't know, it just felt so odd and so foreign to me. And again, I'm not like saying anything bad about it. I think religion is a wonderful thing. I think, again, this is why Carter is the way he is. Like he has such good morals and like he has such a strong sense of like family and just like so many great things. But again, just like going to church is like scary to me. And like the songs, it's like just everybody knowing and then I'm just sitting there. But at the church was when I was seeing a lot of people that I hadn't met yet. So on Saturday night, we had over just 2 families, but they each had like 6 kids. So there was like 20 or 30 people at the house, but it was just 2 families. Okay. And so I met them. And then at the church was a lot of the other people. And so people were coming up to me and they're like, Brenna, hi, because Carter's mom obviously tells everybody about just like us and his life. And like, obviously I'm brought up and she shows them pictures, but I don't know any of these people. And I'm like, hi, like, who are you? Like they would lead just like starting talking, but I didn't know. And a lot of them obviously had searched me on social media. And there was one cute woman and she's like, I just love your videos. She's like, if I'm sad, I listen to Taylor Swift or I go to your page. And I'm like, oh gosh, like these people definitely don't believe in cussing. Like it made me a little self-conscious. But she was like so nice. So obviously she enjoyed it. And then her husband, she's married. She's like 50 years old. He was like, yeah, I just, I'm like, what is she talking about now? And she's like, at first, or he, the husband, he was like, I always thought you were talking about Carter. Like when I talk about what guys shouldn't do, like he thought I was just on TikTok, like letting out my grievances about my own boyfriend. But you know how like the older generations just like don't understand social media. They just like don't really understand content and videos and just how it works sometimes, obviously, but they were so sweet. And then, yeah, so we sit through the church service. Anyways, it was wonderful. Okay, we sat through church for like an hour and then we went back home. They were catering Chipotle and somebody went and picked it up. It just came in these big boxes. And then everybody came over after the service and ate and hung out and they redid their backyard so beautiful. They got this new outdoor dining situation. Carter's mother is like an interior design woman. Like she has worked in that field on and off. Like she just has an eye for interior design and we'll get into a little topic later. And they potted all of these plants and succulents and like there were so many kids. Each of these families had like 6 kids minimum. So like all of these kids are running around. There was like some of the kids were in their 20s or like late teens. But there were a handful of little kids just like running around and then the grandparents. So Carter's grandparents were there, which it was so great to see both of them. And yeah, it was wonderful. It was so nice. And everybody was so nice. And I was explaining to Carter that we didn't have family friends. Like, of course, I went to school and like all of the girls I played sports with, my dad was like friendly with at the games, but we never had like family friends, like units. Well, I didn't even have a family unit where people like hang out and they go on trips. And Carter's family has invited all of these people to the Montana house. So like all of them have been up there. So they have all of these wonderful memories. I'm like, your childhood was just so different. I'm like, this is so nice. And just like seeing so many strong families with like so many kids that all love each other. And everybody was so kind and warm. It was just so nice. I was like, I didn't have this growing up, which is, I don't have any ill feelings towards it, but I was like, this is what I want. Like, I want, once we get a house, we can invite our friends and like have like little nights, and not like everybody needs to be friends, but once we have kids and then, we make more friends from their friends or whatever, having people over, like, it's so nice, but it's just like so foreign to me, which is another thing that I wanted to talk to you about. Me and Carter got on the topic of like bedrooms the other day, and it was when we were here, not back at his house. And he was like, I would love to like know what your bedroom was like growing up. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, what color were the walls? And I'm like, white? What other color would they be? And I hate to like rehash my childhood every time, but I was raised by a man, a 30-year-old man. You guys at home, sit and think, okay, your older brother, a cousin, okay, anybody that you know that's a 30-year-old man, okay, if they aren't married or have a girlfriend, like think of that man raising a child. Like they are just such simple human beings. Like the only reason men that are married have like beautiful homes is because of the wife. Okay, maybe not the only, I'm generalizing here. Some guys might have a eye for design and like a home and coziness, but like for the majority, okay, the reason like houses are decorated is because women do that, right? I didn't have that. So like my house, like all of our walls were white. There was no decorations, which probably makes sense when you guys see our apartment. Like the only art we have is this one in the bedroom of Maydog, which I love, but our childhoods obviously just like make us. So Carter was like, okay. And then he's like, well, like what kind of sheets did you have on your bed? Like there had to have been some sort of personality. I was like, NASCAR? My sheets were NASCAR themed because that's what my dad had. Like we didn't buy things to decorate or for like funsies. Like we bought what was essential. So like I had NASCAR sheets my whole life. And then this brought up the conversation because I got a comment once about not having a headboard. And it made me think, I have never had a headboard, you guys, in my entire life. And I ask you, do headboards have a function? And that's a serious question. Like, do they have a function or are they just for decoration? I think they're just for decoration. Because even when I was a child, we didn't have headboards. Like again, my dad, like that, if it's not a necessity, he wasn't going to pay for a headboard. So my whole childhood, I never had a headboard. I literally never. Maybe at my mom's house, but I only stayed there once every 2 weeks. And then I went into college. I had a bunk, I was in the dorms. They just give you whatever. And then I left and I just got a bed frame from my dad, I think maybe, and a mattress. Again, like it wasn't a necessity. And in college, I wasn't going to spend money that I didn't need to. So I just never got one. And then once I got to Dallas, same thing. I guess I never even thought about it because I never had one and I never knew that it was like a necessity, which it isn't. I don't think it has a function. And we don't have one. And Carter said growing up, he did definitely, like his mom, obviously decorator, like he had a cute little room, I'm sure, and all the things, and their house is so decorated, but it's just not something I thought of. And of course, one day I want one, like to tie it all in. And I do think, of course, it could add something to this room, but it's just not a necessity. I don't want to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on a headboard, But I was thinking that. I was like, wow, I've literally never had one. And there used to be trends on TikTok where people would make fun of men, like if he doesn't have a headboard. And I'm like, every time I saw those, I was like, damn, I'm the red flag. I don't have one, but it's okay. I think it's fine. We're rocking and rolling with that one. Wait, that also reminded me, Carter and I were then in the same conversation talking about holidays. Like his mom went over the top for Halloween, Thanksgiving, like decorating for each holiday, like the whole house. I'm like, that's so cool. And of course, I didn't have that. Again, this isn't like a poor me. I think my childhood was wonderful and fine. Like these are things that aren't necessary. But obviously my dad, he wasn't even decorating year round, let alone for the holidays. And Carter was like, I really want that for our kids. Like it really made the holiday special, like having all the decorations. And I must have been getting my period or something. I like started crying, not because I felt bad for myself, but because I felt like I'm really bad at that kind of thing. And I know that I'm really bad at the details and like the decorating. It's just not something I think of and that I was raised around. So it's like not my fault. And it's not something that like anybody's judging me for, but I felt a lot of pressure in that moment that Carter wanted that for our kids. I'm like, I'm gonna have to like hire somebody, which I think I could do it. But also I have such a hard time spending money on things that aren't a necessity. Like I've never decorated for Christmas because number one, I've been in apartments. If you live in apartments, you get it. It's already hard enough having enough storage just for your year-to-year things, but then getting decorations, like until I get in a home, I don't want to have a ton of decorations because it's just going to take up space that you have for like a month out of the year. And again, me and Carter go into this argument and he's like, but it really does make a difference. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't think it does. And that's just like in my bones. I think I could appreciate it and I'll get there. And it also comes with like having more disposable income, obviously. Like once we have more money, I might feel different about the way I spend money. But who I am right now, I have such a hard time buying anything that isn't a necessity. Okay. And I'm sure a lot of you feel that way. Some people are compulsive buyers, spenders, but I think also, you know, I do get a lot of girls like when I go shopping and I post about it and I'm like, I didn't buy anything. There are a lot of girls that are like, I'm the same way. I need to like love it, or it has to be a need, or I'm not buying it. But anyways, sorry about all those side tangents. Let me make sure. Oh my gosh, the meat and potatoes of something that I wanted to talk about. On Saturday, we had people over in California, obviously. So I just had my phone in our room from like 4 to like 10 was finally the time we got in there. And I had a message from my best friend, Natalie, who was watching May. And I hadn't heard from her yet, but it had only been a day and we were gone for like 2. I didn't expect anything. But of course, I want to like know how May's doing. She sent me a notes app, right? And the title of it is The Chronicles of May Bay. Okay, so it starts. On Friday, May 24th, 2024, at 3:58 p.m., Aunt Nat and Uncle Rye were insistent on me accompanying them on the couch. So I took a very comfortable nap, and it's a photo of May taking a nap. At 4:18, I followed Uncle Rye to see why he got off the couch, but he was going to the bathroom and didn't let me keep him company. So I waited outside the door to make sure he didn't fall in. She's standing outside of the door. At 5:23, after I ate dinner, I had a burst of energy. So Uncle Rye and Aunt Nat played with me, and it's a video of them playing. She gave me like an hour by hour update of May Dog. I was dying. It made my whole heart so happy. And then on Sunday, or no, she sent it Friday night. So then Saturday we were busy. And then Sunday we were also very busy. So it wasn't until Monday I texted her. I was like, hey, we're boarding the plane. We'll get in at this time. Like I'll come pick her up right after at 1. And she was like, sorry about like keep updating or how I was updating the notes app. Like, I hope that wasn't annoying. And I was like, wait, what? And she thought I was getting notifications. She did it through Saturday and Sunday. So then once I was boarding the plane, I was looking and there were all of these photos of May on Ryan's lap, on the bed, going potty, like literally a novel about what they did. It was so precious. And I'm like, okay, maybe you guys should watch her every time because I love that I got a play-by-play. It was so precious. I'll have to add that into Tuesday's post. I need to have a separate notes app. That way I remember what to post in my Tuesday post. But anyways, okay, first let's get into the book update. You guys, I'm going to try and go quick because I already took up like half of the podcast. So just ramble. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. If you guys have read this book, I wish I knew that you guys had read it so I could just like talk and talk and talk. I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't listened. I loved this. And as a bitch who was hating about fantasy, here's the thing. Like, I never watched Twilight, like the werewolves. And actually, Carter watched a show not that long ago with like werewolves and vampires. I'm just like, what the fuck are we talking about? This, okay, honestly, like Harry Potter, like who am I to say? I didn't read all of the Harry Potter books. I read some, my brother did, but we went to all the movies. Like if you can get behind that, you can get behind this. Like it's dragons. They go to a school, okay, where you either become a scribe, a healer, a rider, okay, and they're protecting their like kingdom. So good. Oh my gosh, Xaden. Like I loved the buildup of like, you know, when they hate each other and then spoiler. I'm sorry, but like you would, I hope I didn't just spoil it. I'm so sorry. But like that's not that shocking. Anywho, I'll shut the fuck up. Loved this. Like definitely one of my top, like immediately when it started, like how they're in the room talking to their mom and the sister, it was just like hooked right away. And I loved every single part of this. So there's a second one called Iron Flame, which my best friend is reading. So I borrowed this from Natalie, who watched May Dog. So she's reading the second one right now. So whenever I see her next, which might actually take weeks because we have a hard time getting together just with our schedules not aligning, I'm going to have to get that from her. So I finished that a couple days ago. And then I just started this last night. Maybe Watch Me Disappear by Janelle Brown. So far, it's okay. I'm not in love with it. I'm not like grabbing for it. Actually, last night, I had a hard time. I was like, ugh. Like, it's just kind of slow so far. But hopefully it picks up. There's some juice starting, which we love. So I'm reading this now. And then you guys, okay, product of the week, which I already posted about on my Instagram. So you guys already know. This Lululemon skirt. And the one that I'm holding in my hands, I got the green one. So I used the gift cards from my gifts from Carter and his mom to order the black one. So I got that first. The second it came in, it fit me so perfectly. The length, the style, obsessed. It's called like the hiking skirt. I have it linked under links, my Instagram highlight reel. This was the day we were leaving for the trip. On Friday, I put in an order for the green one and they don't have any other colors or I would have gotten it. And honestly, this green is like not really my favorite. It's almost like gray, but I can wear it with like a black or white top. But I just know once I get something or find something that fits me so perfectly that I love, I have to get it in every color, similar to my Target tee that I'm wearing, how I have it in every single color. Like I know what I like. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, let me get into the TikToks that I watched. There's only a couple things that I wanted to talk about, actually two, okay? And then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes, how to stop getting attached to loser boys when you're first dating. Not actually, but yeah, kind of. Okay, two TikToks that I saw. Well, actually, the packing of the Stanley Cups. Okay, I talked about this on my Instagram, so I apologize that I'm reiterating how they have their Stanley Cup. They then get those ice cubes that are circular, which probably take up so much room in their freezer when you could just use regular ice cubes. Okay, they put those in and then they cover it. And then they have the bag that goes around. And then they have the attachment for the lip gloss. And then they have a name tag that sits on top. And then the thing that covers the straw. And then the freaking tray where they put snacks. Be so for real. Rage bait is a thing and it's working. Like if they're just making this to make me upset, and typically I don't fall for it, but the problem is that I know there are so many women out there that buy immediately, impulsive. Oh my gosh, impulsive buying. Okay, so I bet there are so many people that went and bought that stupid ass ice tray because they posted about it. And these videos are getting like hundreds of thousands of likes. So like millions of views. I can't do it. I cannot do it. And then another TikTok that I saw, which this one is very specific. I literally showed Carter and I'm like, this is crazy. There are two guys that I follow. There's Dr. John Deloney, I think is his name, or Delaney. I'm sorry. I don't know exactly. He's like a podcast person. All of his clips are from his podcast, but he's like a marriage advice giver. I don't know. I think, well, obviously his name's Dr. John. He's a doctor of some sort, a psychologist. I don't know, but people call in and ask him for marriage advice. And then there's this man, I'm sure you guys have seen both of them. This guy, I think, works for Dave Ramsey. He's like a financial person. So it's like the same sort of vibe though. Every clip I see of him, it's a podcast, but he's like answering callers' phone calls. Okay, sorry, brain dead. Well, they collabed, so they must have had like a podcast together. This woman calls in. Okay, you guys, I'm still like baffled. Okay. And she said that she's been married for 7 years and they have split finances. Okay. So they have their own incomes. They don't conjoin anything. Okay. They split everything 50-50, the rent, everything. Okay. Which I think is a little bit crazy. And that is just my opinion. Anyways, she just got pregnant. She just had her baby and she was planning on not using an epidural, but then obviously during her 24-hour labor, which I don't even care if it's an hour long, at some point she decided to get an epidural, which she should. You are allowed and you should. You're not cooler if you don't. Like, who gives a fuck? Okay? I don't care. She got the epidural, okay, and then obviously had their child. They get the hospital bill, which was $8,000, okay, for the epidural, for like labor or like nursery charges and certain different things. Her husband dead ass looked at her and said, that is your bill. You owe that $8,000. After this woman just gave birth to his child, he said something along the lines of all these extra costs, like, well, you weren't going to do an epidural, like you chose last minute. Are you fucking for real? This made me fume. That's crazy. And the point that they were also making on the podcast is like, people who split 50-50, whatever, but like, where is your line? Because then this shit happens. Like, yep, it was 50-50. And like, those were technically her costs. Like, you have to be so clear on what is and what isn't. I'm obviously an advocate for joined finances. I think when you're married, you're both bringing in income. It's all of your money. It's everybody's money. Okay, what, do you allocate certain money for the child? Who pays for the child? You're gonna split everything 50-50? It's just like so crazy to me. And again, you can have a differing opinion. That's just mine. That is insane. I showed it to Carter and he was like, oh my God, like that is the saddest thing I've ever heard. I'm like, can you imagine? And this girl, she was like, are my feelings valid? Like, I just feel like that's, not right. And of course, both of them were like, no, that's so fucked up. That's crazy. Okay. I just had to get that off my chest because if you guys didn't see that video, oh my God, I just like, that is not a marriage. All of the comments obviously were like, the divorce lawyers are going to be way more expensive or something. They weren't that funny, but I'm like, no, for real. Like that is so crazy. That's not your partner. That is not your partner. No offense, lady. I'm sorry, and I shouldn't judge from outside. But anyways, okay, you guys, let's get into the actual episode. I want to talk about, after last week's episode, when I got a question on how to not get attached so easily, that is what I want to talk about. And I want to make a few disclaimers. Number one, it is so hard to kind of determine what is getting attached and like what is getting excited about like seeing somebody new, because there is a fine line, or it's just like a gray area, because I want you guys to like be excited about dating and like, when somebody has potential, like it's fun to have those emotions, but like getting too wrapped up in it and getting attached is where it goes too far. Or if every single guy that you go on a date with, you get attached to, like that is not good. Okay. Not every guy is going to be a good fit for you. And so while I'm talking about this, I don't know what the disclaimer I wanted to make was. Like, there is just, it's a hard topic because I don't want you guys to like put up all of these walls and not be excited and come in with like a million different boundaries. But I am also speaking from experience. When in college, like I used to get attached so quickly, and there's so many different reasons for this. I was younger. Okay. My priorities at the time were different. Like there's so many things. So a lot of this, like truly I'm speaking from my own heart, because I've been there. I've been like desperate. I've been, talking to a guy constantly, whether I'm Snapchatting this boy. So then that way, when this one fades out, I have this guy. Like I always needed the validation, and then I would just like get too tangled up in it. I've been there. And I think it all is just like being young and learning, and there's so many things, but I'm just going to like broadly talk about it because I think a lot of girls have this problem, because I think just by nature, like we're lovers. Obviously, we want relationships. And that's another thing. It is not bad to want a relationship. Okay. Never is it bad to like want to have a partner. That's so natural. It's so normal, of course. But there's just comes a line of like healthy and unhealthy behaviors, and like when it consumes you, which I've again been there. So that's what I'm trying to help. And all of these like little tips and things, some are going to apply and some aren't, because also there are a lot of different reasons why we become attached so quickly. Some people in childhood were abandoned. Okay, right? There's like wounds from your childhood. And I think probably some of mine stems from that. Not that I was abandoned, but I think again, coming from like a broken household. And, once I was leaving the house, my dad had a girlfriend, and like we were just like two separate human beings, which I don't blame him at all. But I think like I craved attention because I was kind of an independent bitch forever. Like my family unit wasn't there. So I didn't have like all of this love. And, I think also like not having the constant of a mom, I'm dissecting and like just kind of diagnosing myself, but like that's where I think some of it comes from, even though they loved me so much, and my grandparents, of course. But you know how like childhood wounds, like it's just kind of these little things that you pick up on. So like in high school, yeah, I was always like talking to, like Snapchatting, there was always somebody that was like keeping my attention. And also when you're young, like you don't have really anything going on. You have no priorities, like you have nothing to focus on. So I think that plays a part. But also, okay, then there's like attachment styles. I think a lot of people are anxiously attached. Okay. I think some reasons also when you don't have like a super fulfilling life, like if you go to work, you hate your job, and then you have no hobbies and no friends after work, I think we crave a relationship that way. I think that society, like the pressures can make you feel like you need a partner. So people become attached that way. Like you just want it so badly. I think if you've never been single, that's also a bad thing, because this was me for a long time. Not like real relationships. Like there have been moments where I was single in my younger days, but I was always talking to somebody. Like there was always somebody there to keep me company. I also think that sometimes we just get too intimate too quickly. Like having sex is a real thing and it gets you attached to a person. There are so many different reasons why we become attached so quickly. So some of these tips are gonna apply to you and some won't. But let's start from the top. I think if you are a single girl, number one, have you actually been like single, like not speaking to a boy, not on the apps, not Snapchatting, like completely in your own lane? Because if you haven't, I would strongly encourage that you take some time to just completely be single. Spend time by yourself, spend time with your friends and family, spend time figuring out your hobbies. Okay, if you've just like never had a single month where you weren't at least in some way involved talking to a guy, I would strongly encourage, because I think we all know girls. And again, I was this person like in college more so, I would say. Once I moved to Dallas, like it was very different, but I constantly had to have somebody because I felt kind of almost less than if I didn't. And I think this is like especially a thing when you've been in a relationship and you just get out of it, you get attached to the next person you see, because when you're in a relationship, you know all of those feelings, you like the comfort of having somebody. So once you lose that, the next guy that gives you attention, you're like, oh my gosh, because your most recent feelings were having somebody. So I think for people that have a problem being single, like you kind of just fall into this like getting attached because you like those feelings and having somebody, but it's also kind of keeping you stuck. Like it's not allowing you to really determine like if this person is right for you. You just are attached after attached. Does that make sense? So I think taking a moment to be single, I think a big one is also creating a life that you like. You've heard me talk about this a million times. When I met Carter, which again, you guys can also judge me and take everything with a grain of salt, because me and Carter started out fast and I had just gotten out of a relationship 3 months prior. So like, have your opinions, that's fine. But when you build a life that you enjoy and that you see your friends and you have your little hobbies and you go to work, it is so much harder to find a person that fits into that life and that makes you want a relationship. Like prior to Carter, the year prior when I was single for like a year and a half, I loved my life so much. I was nannying, I was starting the social media, I was like spending time with my friends, I was going on trips. So like a boyfriend was gonna hold me down. Every guy that I dated, I was like, I always felt that they were holding me back. So when you have this life where you don't have a lot going on, you hate your job, you go home, you do nothing, which enjoying or learning how to enjoy being alone is huge as well. It's so much easier to get attached or like want somebody to like love and be in a relationship with, because you are so unfulfilled in your life that you're just looking for some happiness or some joy. So like any Joe Schmo will do. Like I really do stand behind that. So building a life that you love, and I know it's so cliche and so annoying, it's like, but I don't know what I like. I think just spending time by yourself and also getting comfortable with being by yourself, because the best place to be is independent. And then also, again, you can want a relationship, that's normal and you should, like that's amazing. But once you really are in a place where like you could go one way or the other, like you want it but you're okay without it, that is the best place to be, to then find a relationship. Because you go on dates and like if the guy isn't adding value, again, that year and a half that I was single, the relationship before, the one before Carter, sorry if that was confusing, I was going on dates, totally. Every guy was like so lackluster. And I'm like this is just going to take time away from the things that I want to be doing. And same, like in those 3 months period, I went on a few dates and then I met Carter, which was like so different because like he just is my person. But again, he was adding to my life, my already full happy life that I enjoyed. So like, that's when I knew, I was like, okay, like this guy is worth my time. So that is like 2 things that I wanted to say. When it comes to dating, okay, like in those early stages, if you're on the apps, I think some boundaries that you should place, and I know some people get heated when I talk about these things. Number one, okay, when you meet or match with a guy on a dating app, stalk them to find a LinkedIn, a Facebook, an Instagram to just like see if they're legit and not scary. But that's where it ends. Do not add them. Do not be stalking their socials. It starts before you even meet them. Like if you go to their Instagram and they do all of these fun things, they travel all the time, they have a wonderful family, you just envision yourself in there. Okay, we've all done it, obviously, and you have to not do that. Okay, you literally don't know this person yet. So like stalk the socials to make sure they're who they are. But then in the early stages, like, which is another reason I think with Carter, it was so wonderful because he doesn't have socials. So there was like none of that happening. You know, there was no like make believe in my head. It was like very real and very now. But in years past, like I would do this when I first moved to Dallas. Like if I met a guy or saw a guy at the gym, you know, when I worked there or I matched, I would find them on socials. And then of course I'm like, oh my gosh, like he has a great job. He travels a lot. Like I could just like slide in here, you know, then we'll go on trips and, you know, his friend has this wedding and like you just start doing that, which is so unhealthy. And a reason we get attached, like that has nothing to do with them. And another thing, quit putting value on their tangible things, which I know is so hard, but like, okay, he has like a really good job. He makes good money. He has his own apartment. Okay, he has a nice car. Those are all cool and wonderful things. And if you guys get together, you know, that's like wonderful. Obviously, financial stability, like that's a whole other topic. But, okay, how is he treating you? Like none of those things have anything to do with how he's treating you. Like a man can have the best job ever. He can make $1 million a year. He can have the nicest car. He can go on trips. But if he treats you like shit, he's going to be a bad partner. But we get attached to these like tangible, like these qualities of them, which again are important. For example, I'm talking about my boyfriend. Like he was a law student, you know, he had his own apartment. Of course, in my head, I'm like, check, like wonderful things. But we get so wrapped up in those things. And sometimes we become blind to like, oh, he's not making any effort to see me. He's not taking me on dates. Like he's barely giving me the time of day. But you've already decided in your head that you fit into his life and you want him to be your husband because he makes good money. You know, it sounds silly, but we do it. As women, we do it time and time again. And I would just highly encourage not, and just like be realistic and be in the now. Try not to fantasize about these men. And I get it. It's hard, but you just have to ground yourself. And I think this is why it's important to have your own life. Because if you have things going on in your own life, like that's what you're focusing on, okay? Don't bail on your friends, the plans that you had, okay? You have your hobbies, you go to the gym, like keep up with those things. You shouldn't play hard to get, but you should be hard to get. So what does that mean? Like keeping your own life, having your own plans, like actually being busy. Like playing hard to get is doing things like not answering the text too quickly and like doing all the things like a calculated way of like responding and messaging and like being available. Like no, just actually be busy and actually have things going on in your life. Because when we are also like just too available, or like you start hanging out with a guy so quickly, like you go on one day, you have a good time, you see them the next day, you become attached because you just all of a sudden fall into this, like you're together. Like that just happens. And I think you should really actually just be hard to get, have your own life, like be fulfilled in that the best you can. Of course, like sometimes we can create this life, but you're also like, it would also be better to have a partner, and that's okay. But I think that, again, these are just all like tips and tricks to hopefully keep you from getting attached too quickly. I think also in the early stages of dating, not texting 24/7. I think in the first couple weeks of dating, you should not be texting them every day, all day. Maybe a quick text at the end of the day or a call. But the less you can incorporate them into your life early on, the better. And I actually got a comment the other day and somebody asked like, but won't he forget about me if I'm not texting, or like if I'm not making sure that he's remembering me? If you have to text this man to just like remember that you exist, or to like make sure he's thinking about you, that is like not your person. You know, they will not forget about you. If they like you and genuinely want to see you and date you, they won't just forget about you when you don't text all day because you have a job and you're busy. Okay. And again, it's just like way better to be that way. So I think keeping the communication via text and calls to a minimum in those early stages is really crucial. I do. And people have problems with this. And I think when you're younger and in college and you have nothing going on, it's so much easier to like, you're texting all the time, you're seeing each other all the time. Cause like, what the heck else are you doing if you don't have a job, But as you get older, and I think a lot of you are a little bit older, I think that's huge. I am a firm believer in also not Snapchatting your person ever. I think you can Snapchat your friends and your family. Again, I'm villainizing an app. People like get so up in arms. But a potential partner, I think Snapchat is just so weird. Like you don't even have genuine conversation on Snapchat and like you're just sending pictures. And again, it's like another thing to obsess over. You check the snap score. You are obsessing over the fact that you sent him a snap and then he either opened it or didn't, but it's been 5 hours. Like we're just too old to be doing all of that. I think just keep it to text message. That's just a rule I would have. I think also when it comes to the early stages, like if a man is only texting you after 9 p.m., just don't answer those texts. Answer in the morning or the next day later and say, hey, sorry, I was like asleep. I think having these firm boundaries is so important in those beginning stages of dating. Let me check my notes app to make sure I'm still on track here. Oh, and like with that, the first dates, spreading them out. Not getting wrapped up in the date after date after date. And I know it's hard when you're so excited, but again, it's like adding to the attachment. It's hard to like take a step back when you're seeing them, when you're talking to them all the time. So I think you have the first date, okay? It goes well, great. Like that's awesome. Be excited about that, but like take some days, okay? That way you can like think a little bit more clearly. Of course, can you still get wrapped up in it? But I think it helps slow you down and take your time to really analyze and just like have a normal, natural progression. Going slow is never, ever, ever going to ruin the thing with your person. Like, I don't know, we feel this need to like rush and make sure like we're boyfriend and girlfriend in no time. And like taking it slow is never going to prevent you from doing that. If because you didn't see each other in 4 days, he's forgotten about you again, like that would just never happen with your person. So like, that's just the wrong person if you feel that way. I also think intimacy, not having sex right away is big, especially for women. It is natural. We get attached after having sex. That is just reality. So I think waiting, again, the guy for you will not care at all how long he waits. Okay. If you feel that you are being pressured to have sex by a man, he is not the one. Like that is never okay. And that will never also be the start of a good and healthy relationship. If he's already pressuring you to get physical when you're not comfortable, no. Okay. So I think withholding that, like I think sometimes we get attached. This is another reason. Like if you, on the first day, you guys had drinks and then you went home and you had sex, which I'm not shaming you for doing that. Hello, I've been there, but I think that can make you attached to a person. Like that's just the reality of it. So I think trying to be better, really when it comes down to getting attached to somebody, a guy that you just started seeing, it really comes to like the boundaries with ourselves. Okay, you have to be so disciplined and know yourself to know like, hey, these things do make me attached. Like when I'm constantly talking to them, I'm waiting around for the Snapchat, I'm doing the thing, like just cut off those things that make you feel anxious and crazy about this person when you barely know them. And being realistic and grounding yourself in reality. If you've gone on one date with a man, you have no idea if that could be your potential husband. With that comes drinking on dates. I think if you could keep alcohol consumption to a minimum, like a drink, maybe two, depending on your limit, I think we get different feelings of attraction from being intoxicated. Like obviously it does something to our bodies, and it can make you feel like you just had the best date ever when you were just like drunk and like tipsy and having a good time. So that's like, again, some of these tips are minor, and then some of them I think have like a deeper meaning. Taking them off the pedestal, like really trying to stay grounded and in reality, and remembering also your worth. Like we get so wrapped up in what if he doesn't like me, or does he like me, or what does he think? What do you think? Okay, you are so focused on just like having a boyfriend and making this person your person, and you have forgotten that you are amazing. You are worth loving. Okay, if this man isn't giving you the time of day, or if he's like half-assed, if he's inconsistent with his messaging, nope, that shouldn't be a reason to pull more. Like we get so obsessed with these highs and lows and the hot and cold, and now we just want them to like us when did we even like them in the first place? I don't know, because you never even gave yourself a moment to like really think and put yourself on the pedestal and not him. Okay, because you were hot, you were kind, you were funny, and you were smart. You bring so much to the table. It's not all about what he wants or what he likes. When you are dating, you are just as much trying to find your person as he is. I feel like men often get the power because if you aren't super confident and you just want a partner, we put it all in their hands, and we want him to choose us, and we want him to like us, and we forget about our feelings and us wanting them and us liking them. So I think putting yourself on the pedestal and remembering how amazing you are and how lucky that man would be to have you, okay, is something we cannot forget. I am just so passionate about all my girlies being in happy and healthy relationships, because it is the most wonderful thing in the world to be in a stable, happy, healthy, trustworthy relationship. I think when we get attached so easily, which again, I've been there, it clouds our judgment, and then we're not making the best decision for us. So when we come from a place of like confidence, knowing what you want as well, you need to go into dating knowing what it is you're looking for, the qualities. Do you want him to respect you? Do you want him to have, the same ambitions as you and goals? And like, what kind of man do you really want? Okay, that's so important, because if you don't know what it is you're even looking for, you're never going to make the best choice for you. And if you're not happy and content in your life, you're just looking for somebody to make you happy. Any guy can do that. If you're attracted to and you have chemistry with a guy, like he will add some positive and happiness to your life. But if you guys aren't deeply compatible, like it's going to be fun for a little bit and then that's it. And I think also not planning for the future, the fantasizing. If you feel like he is that way, I would probably argue that he has his own sort of attachment issues as well. Like love bombing is real. A guy being hot and heavy. You're on the first date planning this, that, and the other. Okay, talking about this and that, which is like so fun and exciting. But it's also like, whoa. We've been on 2 dates. Like really, you do not know this person that well, but you're idealizing and romanticizing them and getting attached to these like plans and ideas in future. Like a lot of us want to get married and have kids, but that is like such a small portion of it. You can do that with any man. So you have to find the man that's right for you and that you're compatible with. So not getting swept up in like the woo woo, the future. Like if you see yourself or him, like planning all these things a little bit too early, again, it just goes back to like taking it slow. Like you're never going to take it too slow with the right person. And yeah, I think knowing yourself, and again, just like taking time to like really spend with yourself and taking the time you need to be single. And if you're in a place where you've been single for a long time, you're like, Brenna, that's not the issue. Well, but that would be a little bit different because you're not getting attached to every guy. Again, I think, maybe also, which I don't necessarily love this advice because it's nuanced, but like dating multiple people. Like I think it's easy to get attached and wrapped up when you're only, talking to one person at a time, which this is such a gray area because I don't mean like giving it your all. And like, if you're very serious about a person, like, no, I don't think you should be going on other dates. But I remember one of my previous boyfriends when I moved to Dallas, I had a date like a week after our first date because I was like, okay, like that has potential. But again, we weren't talking 24/7. Like we were just like slowly and naturally like seeing how it progressed. And I went on a date with another guy and it was like fine. It was like not good. This guy was like so stuck up. But making sure you're not like also calling it quits too early. Like you go on one date and then you delete the app because you're all in on this one guy. Like you really don't know this person yet. So I think, no, do I think you should be out like talking to a million guys and sleeping around? Like, no, that's not what I'm saying, but not closing out the other options too soon, or like at least seeing, on the apps, like not too soon, but also respectful. Like if you get to like a few dates and you're both very serious, like, yeah, I don't think you should still be doing that, but you get what I'm saying. There's so many things that go into it. And again, like give yourself grace. It is okay. It is normal. So many girls get attached, and like, I just want to help you if you feel like it's a problem. Like if you're constantly getting your heart ripped out because you get so attached so quickly to these men, it's all a learning experience. And if you're young, with time, you'll get better at it. Like I was the same way in college, and college is such a different atmosphere. You don't really actually date in college. Maybe some people do, but it's such a weird period of time. Once you're in adulthood, it gets different. You go on like serious dates, and like, you go out to dinner, and like you have jobs. So it just becomes a different thing. Now let's get into the questions. I love this question, and she kind of answered it herself. I'm struggling to build boundaries, but also using the let them theory. Can they coexist? Yes, I think they coexist in perfect harmony. I will remind you that a boundary is something that is not to control other people. It's you saying, hey, if this person does this, this is how I respond, or I don't put up with this behavior. So for example, let's say in dating, you don't want to date guys that just want to hook up. So a boundary of yours, which I think this is a wonderful boundary, I don't answer men who text after 9 p.m. That's a boundary that you place. Okay, I think that's wonderful. So you let them act however they are going to act. If a man only texts you every time after 9 p.m., you don't answer. That is it. And that's a boundary to keep men that only want to hook up or only want a late night chat away from you. Like that is the perfect scenario. It can happen in family and friendships. You say, hey, to your family, I don't want to be around you when you're doing this behavior. Like that is a boundary I'm placing. You can act however you're going to act, but this is my boundary and this is what I'm doing. Like I'm not going to come over when this is happening. Okay. Let them choose. If they choose to do the thing again, okay, that's okay. You have your boundary, then you're not going over there. The thing is, you just have to stay firm. And I think this is like the perfect way to see who's good for your life and not. Like come up with these boundaries and then let people act how they're going to act. Don't try and control people. That's not what boundaries are for. But then you respond accordingly to your boundaries. Let people be who they want to be, but you can state your boundaries, say, hey, I don't like this. I'm not trying to control you, but I'm just saying that I'm not going to do this, or I'm only willing to put up with this if yada, yada. Okay. And let them be. That is exactly how it works. Okay. Next question. How would you deal with confusing men? Like talks some days, but then ignores you others. I wouldn't deal with him at all. I would say next. Okay. A man giving you hot and cold mixed signals, that is the biggest red flag of all time. Okay. Because a man who's interested is going to pursue and he's going to be consistent with you. Okay. A man who gives you mixed signals and makes you confused doesn't actually like you. That is just the truth. So I would step away. I'd remove myself from the situation and on to the next. Okay. This is kind of a life question, but I wanted to answer it. How did you decide on Texas, your planning process? I'm trying to get out of ND next year. Oh my gosh. Or in a year, she said. North Dakota, rest in peace. I'm thinking of you. Texas, I chose because of an internship I had. But as far as planning, I think what comes down to it is making sure financially you are set. So I would just save every single penny that you have. And for example, if you are working now, I was in college at the time, but making sure you have a job lined up, like that is the biggest thing when it comes to leaving your hometown or moving to a different city. I worked all through college and I had a good savings set aside. That way I paid for my Airbnb because I got an Airbnb first. And I knew that, like, let's say something happened, I was set for a good few months. That way I wasn't out stranded and then had to move back home. So I think you have to decide, like say, hey, I'm getting the frick out of here. Make sure you get a job lined up or whatever the thing is. And then making sure you have like a good few months of necessities of money. That way you're covered in case you lose your job or like something happens, emergencies, of course. But other than that, just like take the leap and do it. I think leaving your hometown, your home state is the best thing you can ever do for yourself and your growth. You can always go back home. Your home is always going to be there. So I encourage it. And I love that you asked. I actually had a book question as well. Oh, talk about how the heck you read so fast. Actually, I don't think I'm a fast reader at all. I just think I take a lot of time. So in the morning, I go to the gym and I read on the treadmill for an hour. And then at night, I start reading around 8 p.m. and I probably go to bed around 9:30, 10. So that's also a good hour or two. So I'm reading like 3 hours a day. So I think it's just because I have more time probably. But I don't think I'm a fast reader because on the plane ride, I read Fourth Wing and I only got through not even 100 pages in 3 hours. But I also have this problem of like, I really need to like understand everything that's happening. So I find myself like rereading pages all the time because you know, when you start reading and you mindlessly go somewhere else and then you don't know what you read, I hate that. I'm like, what if I miss something? So I'm constantly like rereading. So I don't think I'm fast. I think I just like have a lot of time. I think the walking, the treadmill reading is huge. And yeah, at nighttime, I'm like, oh, we're watching TV, I'm reading. So then I'm reading sometimes earlier than 8 p.m. and on. Okay, this is a wonderful question. How to approach my boyfriend liking other girls' pics on Instagram? Okay, I would just go up to him and say, hey, I've noticed, I can't help it. I'm a girl. We do these things. I see that you like these girls' photos or you follow these certain girls that I don't know or I don't like. And it makes me feel insecure, self-conscious, whatever. And like, that's okay to say. Like, that is how it makes us feel. Like, it makes us feel insecure and disrespected. That is normal. I would appreciate if you didn't do that. Like, I'm just asking this small thing and then see how he responds accordingly. If he says you're crazy, if he says you're insecure, if he says no, the problem is not the liking of the Instagram photos. It is the fact that you told him it hurts your feelings and he continues to do the thing. That's the red flag, because when does that end? If he is just blatantly choosing to disrespect you and hurt your feelings, nope. But if he is a normal boyfriend and actually cares and loves about you, he'll be like, oh my gosh, yes, like I'll unfollow who I need to. I won't like the photos. Like, there are plenty of instances where girls have come to their boyfriends and said that, and the men who love and care about them say, yeah, this is dumb. Like, if this hurts your feelings, I won't do it. Okay. And that's it. I think it's scary, I know, to be vulnerable and say these things when we feel like insecurity and like that sort of thing doesn't feel good. Jealousy even. I get it. Like, I'm the same way. I think it's totally disrespectful. It invokes these horrible feelings in me. So I know that can be hard to bring up, but if every day it consumes you, because I know that can happen, you're like, oh, I hate that he does it. Just put it out on the table and just like be as honest as you can be. Don't attack. Don't come at him sideways. Just say, hey, I don't like this. It makes me feel yucky, whatever your feelings are. And then how he responds is what matters. Okay. If he cares and loves about you, he'll stop doing the thing. And if he doesn't, if he makes you feel crazy, if he just doesn't stop doing it, that is the issue. Okay. I love this question because you guys know I love talking about not giving a frick about what people think. Okay. How do I not care what people think about me getting engaged after a year of dating? Here's the thing. They are not living your life. They are not living your life and you are. So you can sit and let those opinions affect you and say, maybe we shouldn't get engaged. But if you feel like this is the love of your life and you should get engaged and be happy, like, do that. Okay. And if it's your friends and family and they are openly stating that they don't think that's right, they are your haters. They don't actually like you. Like, that's such a weird thing. I would never, ever, ever shame somebody. It's funny because last weekend, every single family there, they're very religious, so they believe in abstinence. So they're like, couples get together after a couple months. Okay. So these are the last people to judge, which I appreciate it. I'm like, there's no right or wrong way. And like, you know yourself better than anybody. Like, even your parents, even your best friend, they don't really know you to your core and what's best for you. So it's hard. And I think it's a constant work in progress, not caring what people think about you in general, but that's so normal. Like, I think after a year, that's a great amount of time. In my opinion, I think you've gone through all of the seasons. I think you have a good idea of who this person is, and it's a choice. You are just choosing to pick them and work through everything together. And if they're a wonderful partner, do it. Okay. Who gives a damn what anybody else thinks? Not me. not me. What does it mean when your ex likes your Instagram story? It means he's annoying. It means he's being a little rat. And it means that he's the worst. Okay, block him. That's all I have to say about that. Really, it means nothing. Like, social media is so stupid where it makes us think like, oh my gosh, he is your ex-boyfriend. Block. Do not allow him to have access to your life. That is just my opinion. Okay, you guys, those are all the questions I'm going to answer today. Of course, every single week, I'm going to answer questions. I think my format is going to be, the little weekly update, which I have been doing, the book update, the product update. I think maybe I'm going to have the TikTok section where I talk to you guys about videos I've seen, because I've been better about keeping a notes app, the topic, and then questions. So I'm always going to have questions. So I'm sorry if I didn't answer it. I will hopefully get to it next weekend. Just keep asking. Okay. And I try and just hit ones that are different than what I've already talked about. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm so happy to be back in town, and we don't have any plans in the near future. So finding a good routine and just catching up with you guys. But I hope you have the best week ever. I'll talk to you next week. And that is all. Okay. Bye, guys.